All right, another lower body session today. It is a Saturday morning at like 5:15 in the morning. You can see it's still dark outside. I got my garage open. It's actually pretty nice out. It's like 68 degrees outside, so I can actually have the garage open this early right now, which I usually can't at this time of the year. But it's my daughter's birthday today, so that's why I'm training early. I got to go pick up my parents from the airport at 7 a.m., so I got to get this training session done. And then we're going to hit the farmer's market, have a little birthday party for my daughter today. It's going to be a pretty busy day with that stuff. Lift for the day, power cleans, depth broad jumps, safety bar box squats, and some Nordic hamstring curls. Quick shout out for Barbell Apparel. I got their heavyweight tee on right now. I really like these heavyweight tees. They're loose fitting, they're thick. You can still sweat in them, and they like absorb the sweat pretty well. They're kind of like a pump cover. I don't know. I like them. I think they fit really well. So check out the Barbell Apparel heavyweight tees in the link in the description below, and let's get to the lift. I'm clustering these power cleans, so I'm doing 1 rep, 20 to 30 seconds off, another rep. All right, gonna make this one my last set. Got 330 on the bar. Let's move it well. Little forward on that one. Peak velo at 2.11. A little bit less explosive in the morning, which is fine. 2.16 on that second one. And mixing up the order a little bit, I'm going to do my squatting first, my box squatting first, then I'm going to do my plyos after. Just feel like mixing up. I already started lifting. I'm going to do the lifting first before the jumps. But I'm doing the waving, the 3, 2, 1 times 3. So 3, 2, 1, go up and wait a little bit, 3, 2, 1, go up and wait a little bit, do 3, 2, 1. I'm going to follow the exact same loading scheme that I followed last week, see if I can move the bar a little bit faster. Yeah, that's the plan. Let's get it. How do I feel about the West Side Barbell books? I've never read any of the West Side Barbell books, to be honest with you, so I don't know. Do you use RPE with double progression programming? I can see a case where people would be going for RPE 10 every time or hitting failure just to tick off the 10 reps both times or the top end of the rep range and maybe resulting in some funky looking lifts. How would you guide this? Yeah, if you're like an experienced, mature lifter, you can kind of decide what you want to do for yourself. Typically, if I'm going to run a double progression myself, I'm going to go 1 to 2 RIR. That's just the guideline for myself. When I'm working with like a high school kid or a client, I'm probably going to keep the RIR a little bit a little bit higher, so further away from failure. I'm probably going to tell them 2 to 3 reps in reserve. But yeah, you just got to govern it somehow, be consistent with how you're governing it, what kind of parameters and constraints you're setting around the sets. Hey, Will, as someone who's about to graduate with my master's this fall, how did you go from an S&C coach to a position in academia? What parts of the transition from S&C coach to professor did you find the most difficult? Quick correction, I'm not a professor. I don't have my PhD, so my title is instructor, not a professor. I just want to correct that all the time when people say professor. It's just inaccurate. I'm not like offended or anything. I just want to set the record straight there. I'm not a professor. I'm just a teacher or instructor. But anyways, how did I go from an S&C coach to a position in academia? So I work at my alma mater. So I teach at UND. Before I was coaching strength and conditioning at UND, I played football at UND. So I'm like familiar with the faculty. I'm familiar with the campus. So when I was working as a strength and conditioning coach, I already knew the faculty. They had this position open up. They reached out and said, hey, you might want to apply for this. The salary was a little bit higher. The work-life balance is a little bit better. Like I'm not on campus at 5 a.m. anymore as a teacher. So I applied for it and I got it. That's essentially how I got into the position. What parts of the transition from S&C coach to teaching did you find the most difficult? The most difficult thing I think is I do a lot more like sitting at a desk computer work because a lot of the classes I teach are online. So it's a lot of just like sitting at the computer, writing out study guides, grading, just doing computer work. A lot more emails that I have to do now because it's a lot of online communication. So and then the actual type of work is different. Like I put up a clip of one of my classes from last week, just a short 2.5 minute clip from one of my lectures. It's just a different type of job, man. Like A lot of the content is the same, so I still teach. Like I do have classes where I teach strength and conditioning concepts and applied principles because it's guided through the NSCA, the CASI accreditation. So it's a lot of the same content, but it's just different. I'm not on the floor like actually coaching, which I do a little bit of that because we have some like lab-based classes too. But it's just different type of work, you know. A lot more computer work, a lot more lecturing, a lot more emails, and that's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge, I guess. 0.5 meters per second, the exact same speed I hit 485 at last week. So starting my second wave here, so I got the weight that I had on the bar for my set of 2 on the last wave, so I did 445 for 3, 460 for 2, 485 for 1. Now I'm restarting my wave, so this is wave 2, and I'm starting my first set of 3 with the weight that I used for a set of 2 on the first wave. 'Why are you doing upper lower split now, not total body? Just wondering because I'm also running it on your app. Appreciate you hopping on Haas Concurrent. Yeah. No, the reason that I'm doing upper lower now with the combine program is because the intensity of the plyos and sprinting is much higher than it has been in the past, in the previous 7 to 8 months. So I wanted the lower body strength training frequency to dial down a little bit. So the lower body strength training frequency is only twice a week, unless you want to consider snatching like a lower body exercise, but that's still like low volume. It's not going to have too much residual fatigue, but that's basically why the plyos and the sprints the intensity is a lot higher. The emphasis and the prioritization on them is a lot higher. So the lower body strength training frequency necessarily has to come down a little bit in order to get all of your training sessions in the necessary time. So that's why. So 485 on the bar, which is what I did my single with on the first wave. Now I'm gonna hit a double with it. Got it. All right, 495 for 1. 0.51 is the goal. Ooh, yep. 0.51 on the mark. Piece of advice, guys, if you're gonna do this wave loading like this, where you're doing 3, 2, 1, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the rep scheme is, but if you're gonna go 3, 2, 1, lower weights, ascending weights, next wave a little bit heavier, third wave a little bit heavier, is make sure that first wave isn't too heavy, because you really are trying to potentiate higher performance on the wave 2 and wave 3. It's really easy to go too heavy on that first wave, and then you can only do like a 5-pound jump, and then you're still kind of like destroyed after. So word of advice, especially on the first wave, make sure it's not too fatiguing. Make sure it is like you're getting like that potentiation kind of feeling. So don't go too heavy. Don't take too big of jumps on that first wave. Let wave 2 and wave 3 allow you to kind of blow it out there. So back down, starting my third wave here, 485 for a set of 3. Have an athlete who is average strength, speed, size, body fat percentage, agility, do you have an ordered approach to address those qualities, or is it more concurrent? Yeah, it's more concurrent. I guess it's going to depend on the sport they play, the training age they are, limiting factors for the sport, or what qualities do need to be prioritized a little bit more. So that's the ordered of approach. Figure out what the limiting factor is. Figure out if there is a certain quality that needs to be emphasized more according to that individual's sport and position that they play. But I'm almost always going to take a concurrent approach with like 99% of the clients that I work with. I'm also wondering, when you say average strength, speed, size, body fat, agility, is that average in accordance with their peers? Or is that like average across general population? It's got to be according to their peers and their sport. But an ordered approach, yeah. Figure out what the limiting factor is for their sport. Figure out what qualities are most necessarily need to be emphasized the most for their sport. Once you can discern those two things, then you're going to have a little bit of a guide, a little bit of a framework to go off of on how you're going to train that individual. 495 for a double, 0.51. Nice. 0.52 on both of those reps, so good set. That's what I'm talking about with using wave 1 to potentiate wave 2 and wave 2 to potentiate wave 3. I'm on wave 3. Conventional wisdom is going to tell you I've built up this fatigue and I'm not going to be able to move it as fast. My force production is going to be a little bit lower. But because I took the appropriate jumps in weight from 3 reps to 2 reps, 2 reps to 1 rep, and wave 1 to wave 2, wave 2 to wave 3, I am feeling a little bit potentiated. I'm moving the bar faster, and that was my 8th set of squats. So that's what I'm talking about with taking the appropriate jumps in weight when you're doing this wave loading. Thoughts on how to bulk and put on weight? I want to answer this without sounding snarky. Like, obviously, you got to be in a caloric surplus. I think, God, I don't know. The bulking diet and the cutting diet is pretty much going to be the exact same. It's just the amount of food that you eat. Especially, I think fats can be a little bit higher when you're cutting because you're going to be in a surplus or a deficit anyways. But when you're bulking, reduce the fat intake as much as possible. A little bit of butter is fine. A little bit of peanut butter is fine. Some olive oil for cooking is fine. For me personally, I don't eat any cheese anymore. My dairy intake is going to be pretty much limited to cottage cheese and some milk. So just limit the fat intake, I guess. Yeah, because the fat that you consume isn't actually going to contribute to lean mass, lean tissue gain. It's going to help with the caloric surplus and put on weight, but it's not going to contribute to the fat intake. You're probably going to get the fat that you need just through consuming meats, even if you're consuming 98% lean ground beef, things like that. If you get ground turkey, ground chicken, if you get all of the lean meats, there's still going to be some fat in it. You're getting the minimal amount of fats necessary for your health. So I would just say reduce the amount of fat intake as much as possible. Like I said, a little bit of butter, a little bit of peanut butter is fine. You're gonna get fats through the meat, and you're gonna get some fats through just the natural ways that you cook anyways. So that's my advice when bulking, is reduce the fats while keeping the calories and the carbs and the proteins high. Last rep of the day, 505. Last week I moved this at 0.52. Let's see if I can beat it. Yes. To show I'm not a liar, 0.56 at 505. Okay, moving on to the depth broad jumps here, guys. Goal, quick off the ground, get some depth on the jumps. 12 to 15, approximately 12 to 15 high quality jumps here. So I'll do a few warm-ups, then I'll get into it. Got to get the chuck out and mark my distance, compete with myself a little bit. Here we go. There's my line to beat. I'm gonna put a line right here. Got to jump from behind that line. There we go. Any advice for how to program strength training for someone who participates in a sport hobby a few times a week? I would say hop on Concurrent because that's what I do. I play recreational basketball, some occasionally recreational volleyball, pickleball, spike ball. You'll see how we program. What are your thoughts on the beginner 5-3-1 program? Involves bench and squat 2 times per week and deadlift overhead press 1 time per week versus something like starting strength for a beginner. I like the concept of 5-3-1 more and find it much more enjoyable, but would it be best to start with a linear progression like starting strength? 5-3-1's a linear progression too. I think they're probably both good programs for a beginner. I don't know what the 5-3-1 beginner program is. I just know what the original 5-3-1 program is, and I think it's pretty good for most people. Beginners and early intermediates. So you can go, you'll do well with either one. How would you go about balancing playing basketball with training to jump higher? Seems like whenever I can play consistently, I don't make improvements in my vert. Basketball, practicing basketball should contribute to your vertical jump training. Now I would pose the question, why do you want to improve your vertical jump? Because vertical jump, remember, is just like a proxy. It's a measure for your ability to produce high power output, rate of force development. It's a proxy to measure those different metrics. But if you want to jump higher so you can dunk the basketball better, there's specific types of jumping in basketball that you want to improve at, which takes skill. A lot of the jumping in basketball comes after a short approach, a long approach, an approach with an arc, with like different takeoff angles. A lot of the types of jumping, you need to be quick off the ground because you're trying to beat your opponent to that peak height of the ball. So like just basic strength training, dude. Basic strength training, Olympic lifts, basic plyos. You probably don't need to do a ton of plyos because a lot of actions on the basketball court are plyometric in nature. It's a lot of extensive plyos just by jogging around and doing sub-maximal cutting, playing defense. Yeah, all that cutting, like back cuts, all that kind of stuff is a lot of like sub-maximal and like near maximal plyos, like a plyometric stress. So just basic strength training, dude. Do your max velocity sprinting too if you can fit that into your training cycle. That's what I would do. All right, moving on to the Nordics. I'm gonna hold a 25-pound weight for all these. Just gonna go eccentric only, and see how well I can control the lowering today. Camera fell over. If I can go 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I just got a few more sets of Nordics. I don't need to show you any more of those. You guys seen plenty of Nordics before, so I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next video.